Hi, and welcome to Mommandants Moments. I'm Julie,
And I'm Stephanie.
and we are the better half of the watch.
Here we'll talk about real life, family, and commiserate a little on what it means to be a Coast Guard spouse. Thanks for joining us. Okay, today, who do we have, Julie? Who's our special guest?
Well, today we have our friend Caroline, who is also the Ombudsman for several units here in Cape May.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, Caroline, could you introduce yourself?
Yes.
And explain to us, what is an ombudsman?
Sure. I'm Caroline. I am an ombudsman in Cape May for a few units. An ombudsman is going to be the liaison between the command, which is who the coasties work for, and the spouses, the family members who live there.
And what does a liaison do?
So any information that needs to be passed from the command to the spouses or the family members will go through the ombudsman, and they'll relay it out to the spouses. They can relay it out through a Facebook page, an email strand, a newsletter, but it's a way to get the needed information to the spouses.
And how long have you been an ombudsman?
For almost 2 years.
Is this your first command?
It is.
What made you want to be
it's
one?
my first command, but I have 5 commands.
Go on.
So I am the ombudsman for TRACEN, and then I also have the ANT, which is a super small one, and then I have 3 of the FRCs.
Okay, so for everybody else, that's the training center at Cape May, which is boot camp. The ANT is the small boats.
Small boats.
Yeah, the small
Repairs.
boats that do and repairs. They're the ones who kind of do the I can't think of the name.
Maintenance?
Yeah, but aren't they in the little orange inflatables? Then they do
Yeah, like buoy maintenance.
Yeah. And then the FRCs are the fast response cutters,
Yes.
right? Okay.
That's right.
Just to make I'm sure most everybody knows what we're talking about, but for those that don't.
Maybe somebody is not Coast Guard related listening.
What made you want to be an ombudsman when you got here?
So, if you ask my husband, it's because I don't like to have any free time. But the main thing, you guys know, I was always in the Coast Guard family. So I was lucky enough to, with my dad being in, and my husband and my brother, if I ever had a question or needed something Coast Guard related, I always had somebody to ask. So I'd just call my mom. If she didn't know, I'd ask my brother. Somebody would always tell me. So when we found out that we were coming here and Eric was going to be on a ship again, and it was our first time being away from family, I was like, maybe I should finally figure this stuff out for myself. And because ombudsmen have to go through a long training to figure out, learn everything. So then I also started thinking, for all of the people who don't have such a strong Coast Guard support system of knowing stuff, that would be great for me to be able to be that for those spouses.
I love that.
Yes. We are so happy you're our ombudsman.
Thanks.
What sort of issues have you encountered from commands that you've had to communicate downward to the families?
The biggest ones so far, we all live in an area where there's natural disasters. We're in a hurricane area. So if there's any natural disasters like hurricanes, then the ombudsman is going to be the one to find out where the families are going and tell them how far out they can go. So luckily we haven't had one here, but one came close. So those issues, also like a government shutdown and the planning to have to figure out how people are going to get their bills paid. And
Were you
what
in
is
on the
gonna happen.
meetings
I
for a lot of
was.
that?
Yes. Super fun. It's interesting being an ombudsman for such different units because like TRACEN, we don't really have people that are gone. Like the spouses are here every day. Whereas like the FRCs, they're gone for weeks or sometimes a month at a time. So it's different. The issues that you get are different. Where like TRACEN, sometimes it's just people mad with their neighbors or something happening. Whereas an FRC, it could be a spouse having an emergency that, okay, does the command you have to figure out ahead of time, does the command want you to contact them? How do they want it contacted? And if the command is far away on a ship, that's different than just being able to walk to the command building.
And walk in, but you don't even have a parking spot.
I don't, and the visitor one is always taken, so I'm back out way when it's pouring rain. I gotta get wet.
What sorts of issues have you encountered from the families and spouses that had to be communicated up other than just emergencies? Has there been anything else?
Emergencies, there could be, sometimes spouses, especially very new spouses, don't understand Coast Guard life, and they don't understand why they can't talk or why they can't know things. So you have to be able to kind of rein them in and let them know so that they don't want the issues brought to the command. But it also could be, we live in Coast Guard housing. There's a lot of different people that are all living in a very small area with sometimes very thin walls, and a lot of different kids that are being raised a lot of different ways. Sometimes that clashes and people want everyone to know about it.
Yeah. You also had like the school bus thing
Yes.
was a big one for you.
School bus, that was a big one.
Yeah. And
Yes.
the school bus
We
and the
do have
after
a
school
bus
program.
now. The after school program, that was a lot of how can fix it
Yeah.
for me.
Yeah, fix that for me.
We have fixed both of those. I did not, but I was the one that was able to tell everyone it was fixed. So that was fun.
What do you wish more spouses would do? What do you wish they would understand more of? What do you wish you could change in us?
In us as a Coast Guard spouse. Relax. No.
Yeah.
I think that a lot of spouses, so we're all being brought from a lot of different areas all over, a lot of different backgrounds. And a lot of these spouses are very young. They've never been away from their clique or their people. They don't know how to interact with other people in the same situation as them, especially if you're moving to like our lovely housing that a lot of people are not happy with. They just like to complain and they like to air their dirty laundry, and they don't know how to do that the right way.
Yeah, Facebook sometimes can be very interesting.
Yes, especially when you're talking about your neighbors who are also on that Facebook page.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we can post anonymously now. That must make it better, right?
Totally, because you can't figure out who that is.
We like to just sit and read the
Because
comments.
you're talking about a certain place in housing or a certain playground, and then everybody can just go walk to those buildings and see who lives there.
So you wish that people would just not have a problem as much.
Basically, just learn to deal. No, I feel like they think about themselves, and they're not thinking that like, okay, maybe you're having this issue, somebody else might be having this issue, but they may not have a spouse there to help them with this issue, where you're airing it out, and somebody always has it worse than you do.
Yeah.
And you don't know what people are going through. Just because you're in an area with all Coast Guard people, it doesn't mean that all of them have the same job, doesn't mean that all of them are going through the same things.
Yeah. So maybe take a beat before you go to Facebook and complain.
Right. Complain to your ombudsman.
Yeah. Call your
I feel like
ombudsman.
everybody should take a beat before they go to Facebook to complain.
Yeah,
Yes.
Julie, do you need to check your phone?
I do. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
My kids are trying to walkie-talkie me, and I'm like, what do you need?
Caroline, do you find that it is difficult to live in housing and be the ombudsman?
Sometimes, yes. People know who I am, and especially people wanting to be my friends on Facebook. It's like, I don't know who you are. And I'm one that I don't friend people if I don't know who they are. But they also think, like, if they'll see me and they're like, oh, have you heard about this? I'm like, no, I haven't. But they think that I should. But sometimes that means it's just not that important.
Yeah.
But people always want the scoop.
Oh, and you can't dish on the
Can't
scoop.
dish on the scoop.
And that's a good point. I mean, that must make it very difficult for you to make friends when you go places as an ombudsman, right? Because you may or may not know, are they trying to be my friend because they want gossip, or are they trying to be my friend because they don't want gossip?
Right.
Like, what are their intentions?
Right. Or do they think that, like, you're just, like, they can't come to you because you might tell somebody something that they've said, where, like, in a position of, oh, if I'm just, like, telling her how I feel about something, is she going to take it as that's my friend listening, or is that an ombudsman listening?
Right. Right. And then what are you telling your husband about what I just told you?
Nothing.
I would freak out about that. That would be my secret. Like, what does everybody know about it now? But
Right.
you have like a very strict no tell anybody anything policy
Right.
unless it affects the command or the member.
Right. Yeah. Everything is anonymous. There are certain things that are not anonymous, but people, so an ombudsman, I think, is a resource that people don't really use as much as they could.
Ooh, tell us more.
So I think that, one, I don't think people really know about it, and they don't know that, like, we go through hours and hours and days of training of how to keep things anonymous, what things we're not supposed to keep anonymous, resources to give people. So people will just kind of sit there and keep things to themselves, because maybe they are afraid of how it's going to look, or afraid that their ombudsman is going to tell somebody something, when really we just want to help you. We're volunteers. We're doing it because we want to do it, not because we're being forced to. Where if people just were like, hey, I need help with this.
And you can get in trouble if you were to violate that privacy,
yes,
right?
You can get relieved, yes.
So I guess everything is anonymous unless it's which things?
So there are certain things that have to be reported, and those are spousal maltreatment, child abuse, homicide, suicide, and then anything that each command can come up with things that they want to know about, and those have to be reported to the command. But usually that's not anything but the four big ones. We can't hold those in.
Yeah.
So, but everything else anybody tells you is totally anonymous.
Yes. And even if there is an issue that needs to be brought to command, the issue of the first question is always, does this person want to remain anonymous? So an issue can still be brought up without names being included. We would just change them to Joe Blow.
So if there is a resource that you wish more spouses knew, I mean, other than call your ombudsman or
Right.
contact your ombudsman, what would that resource be that you find like, hey, I'm constantly giving the same advice? What is that?
Well, so another thing is I feel like people don't use their ombudsman because I don't really give out a lot of advice. And it's not really, like, I feel like it's something that people, if they know about it, they don't use it until it's like too late. Like, now you're having an emergency and your ship is out. I don't even know who my ombudsman is. Let me try and find that out first. But a big one a lot of times is like needing help if somebody is gone or the family is going through something. CG support is one that I always push out that hardly anybody ever even knows about, even the active duty members, which also, ombudsman is not just for spouses. It can be for active duty members. Maybe they don't have a spouse, or maybe they're going through something they don't want to tell their command about. Mm-hmm. They can still come to their ombudsman. So, yeah.
I don't think I knew that. That's good to know.
Yes, we are for everyone. We do not discriminate.
Could you, like, let's say an active duty member did not have a spouse, could you get in touch with their family members instead?
Yes, it would have to be. So each command is different of how they are added. If the coastee is not married, they would have to add the name of who they want on the contact list. If you're a spouse and you're married, then you can do it yourself. But if it's a family member or girlfriend or fiance, it depends. The coastie himself would have to do that.
Do you
But, like,
recommend that new coasties put their moms?
no, I do not,
Why is that?
because moms just are worry warts. They don't understand what their kids are going through, and I do not want to be the ombudsman who gets a million emails from a mom asking, why is the ship out and I haven't heard from my son
Why am I not hearing
Or
from my
daughter.
child
or daughter.
every day?
I have not heard from him in 3 days. Is everything okay?
Well, have you seen anything on the news?
No news is good news.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I do think that it's important to have someone on the ombudsman list, even if you're not married, because you want somebody to find out what's going on and keep in the loop. It depends, because like some units, all it is what's going on base and what events are going on,
Yeah.
and that you don't need your mom.
Well,
or
I don't
your
know. It
girlfriend.
depends on the event.
Maybe they want to come.
Maybe they want to come.
But if it's something about like a ship being out or coming back in or updates on that, then you want somebody on there.
So you're saying I could get on my nephew's ombudsman list?
If he approves it. I just got on my brother's.
Yeah, no, I'm fine.
You could
I'm good.
find out through the grapevine.
Yeah, I just find out through the grapevine.
There you go.
How would a new Coast Guard spouse find who their ombudsman is?
They can have their spouse ask the command when their coastie checks in. I think it should be one of the check-in points, but not every command does that. They can find out through their command who the ombudsman is, get the phone number, email. All of them have their own email. There's also, if they go through Work Life, they have a Work Life office. Work Life can help them find their ombudsman.
I think you can find it online. Is it online?
There is a website, but I think it's being updated, so I'm not sure how accurate it is. I think it's my CG,
Yeah, I'm not sure how up to date
but
that
I don't
is.
think that it's updated.
Does every unit have an ombudsman?
Every unit, as of this summer, every unit is required to have an ombudsman. Sometimes that doesn't happen, especially the smaller units.
Because it's a volunteer.
It is a volunteer and it's a spouse, and it cannot be a command spouse because people, for obvious reasons, don't want to go complain to their command's wife about what's going on. I don't know. It depends on the command, I guess. But yeah, especially the small units. Sometimes it's hard to get people to volunteer for that. But everyone should have one. And I think because we're volunteers, and we have to go through so much training for it, I think people just kind of like, I don't want to do that. We don't need one. But it's another one of those things like you don't think you need one until you need one, and it's too late to get one.
If someone's interested in being an ombudsman, how would they go about letting people know?
They can let their work-life office know, or they can let their command know. The command would get them in touch with their ombudsman coordinator, which is a work-life office job. It's usually the family resource specialist takes that under, and they set up trainings. There's 2 trainings that you have to do. One is an online, you do it on your own training. That one you have to do every year. And then there's a big one that's 3 8-hour days that you do with all of the ombudsmen being trained. That one you have to do one time.
But that's in a different location, right? You'll get to go different places.
It used to be, but since COVID now it's all online. So it's Zoom meetings for 3 days. Come on, Julie. People want to be ombudsman. Don't make it sound bad.
Yeah, but y'all used to get to go places.
I know. Yeah, they used to go places like all over.
Yeah.
Now it's Zoom.
So what is the difference between an ombudsman and somebody who is like an events coordinator at a base? Because there's sometimes I see kind of a blur in where that line is. Like, is the ombudsman the person who coordinates events at the base, or is that like a Is that a spouses club? If there's no spouses club, is that just a really go-getter person?
That is a really go-getter person. Ombudsmen are not allowed to organize events. They are solely for information pass along, and they can help. They can tell you who to go to. They can tell you like maybe they know the inside scoop on what spouses would like, but they can't organize it themselves. They can also not be on any board or have a position of power in any spouses club or events coordinating issues.
I think that's probably good. I would like to know that you were impartial at all times.
Right. Yes. They need to be impartial at all times.
I don't know. I think Caroline could plan a pretty good rager.
Oh, I'm sure she could.
Known. My pre-ombudsman days.
What sort of things, like if I were new to a location and I got in touch with you, if I just showed up here, what sort of things would I know to ask you, and what sort of things would you know to tell me?
So, ombudsmen are great resources for the local things in the area. They cannot recommend anything that's any type of business or anything that somebody would make money off of, but they can point you in the right direction of, like, here's a Facebook page where everybody talks about what doctor they go to, or here's an area, this is where most people live. This area is where most people like to send their kids to school. This daycare is where a lot of people from the base send their kids. These are the grocery stores that I go to. This is where I get my hair done at. As long as they're not pushing a specific business, they can let you know what everybody else does.
Where do you get your hair? I'm just kidding.
I got a girl. But also, I think it's a good point of contact for someone, especially if they have never been to an area before, if they don't know anybody in the area. I just did for my brother who's going to Florida. I found his ombudsman for him and emailed her, and I was like, my brother is coming, but he's an OCS. He can't contact you. Where should he look to live? And he's got 2 kids that need a daycare. And she sent it right back and got to me and was like, let me know if there's anything else. Yeah.
That is a fantastic ombudsman. That sounds like something you would do.
Yes, I would.
So would you encourage someone to definitely volunteer?
Yes. I think there's so because we're for the spouses I think are sometimes we're looked over as needing certain things. And this is someone for the spouses. Because sometimes they're sitting there, they don't know anyone, they don't know who to go to. Maybe they're having an issue, and they could be an issue in their marriage. It could be an issue with where they're living. Maybe they don't like it, but they should never feel like they're alone and that they don't have someone to go to. And if they're, especially a new spouse, if they don't know the resources that are out there, or maybe they're in a panic, they're having an emergency and they have heard this before, but they don't know who to go to. If they know that there is somebody that in an emergency or in an issue, I don't know what to do, but I know that I can call this person, and that person would do whatever they can for them.
All right, final question.
I know.
If you could just scream something from your heart as an ombudsman to the people, to our listeners, all 11 of them, and I think 3 of them are us, what would you scream from your heart to let us know? And keep in mind, we've already done an OPSEC episode, so we've already talked about operational security and not Facebooking the location of everything that's happening.
Right.
But from your ombudsman heart, what would you want everybody to know?
Don't hold your issues in. If you need something, if you're not sure about something, or if there's a problem with something, don't hold it in. Let someone know so that they can help you.
Yeah, that's good advice.
All right, Caroline, thank you so much for coming in today and speaking with us. We love you, and we're going to have you in a lot more.
Yay. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, we'll have more fun episodes.
Yay.
Hey, thanks for taking a moment with us, the Mommandants. You can find us on our website at mommandantsmoments.com.
We also have social media, so you can find us on Instagram, Facebook, and Pinterest, all with Mommandants Moments.